Hey everyone, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a cultural legend that is, well, it's honestly terrifying. It's this chilling narrative exploring the catastrophic clash between human greed and the absolutely unstoppable forces of nature. We're going to break down the folklore of a powerful forest deity, step by step, and examine exactly what happens when unbridled arrogance pushes the natural world just a little too far. So let's get right into it. Our source material kicks things off by painting a deeply chaotic, intensely sensory scene. Picture this. It's midnight. An incredibly wealthy man named Kuber Singhania is tearing down a dark highway in a sleek 53 million rupee black car. The music is blasting, he's smoking an expensive cigar, and an empty liquor bottle is just rolling around on the passenger seat. He gets a phone call, totally loses his temper, and slams his foot on the accelerator. And suddenly, out of nowhere, an old man appears right in the headlights. The brakes screech, the car swerves, but it's way too late. Kuber hits the man, loses total control, and violently crashes his luxury car straight into a massive tree. Bleeding and completely disoriented on the pavement, Kuber looks up to see the old man he just hit. But the old man, he isn't hurt at all. He's just sitting on the road, laughing hysterically. His face contorts, and with a voice full of eerie dread, he delivers this curse. He says, "You won't survive. Your karma won't leave you." And suddenly, the old man starts barking like a dog, literally summoning a pack of wild, ferocious hounds from the nearby woods. The dogs descend on Kuber, tearing into him. He tries to run, bloodied, absolutely terrified, only to be suddenly struck by a massive speeding truck. It is a visceral, incredibly gruesome end. Or so it seems, because in a brilliant twist of dramatic irony, Kuber suddenly jolts awake. He isn't dead, he isn't even on the highway, he's actually in a sterile bed in a psychiatric ward. His son, Robin, his wife, and his friend, Dr. Sanjay, are sitting right beside him. There are no dog bites, there are no broken bones from a truck crash. He is completely physically unharmed. That entire gruesome attack we just went through, it was completely in his shattered mind. Okay, let's dive into this. Part 1. The arrogant billionaire. Now, what's really interesting is the stark contrast in this guy's life. In Kuber's reality, he's this incredibly arrogant billionaire real estate developer. I mean, he built and owns 90% of the buildings in Salargan. He literally holds meetings with chief ministers and pretty much views everyone else as insects. But despite all that immense worldly power, he is currently utterly helpless. He spent the last month mentally shattered, receiving shock therapy, completely unable to defend himself against an unseen force that his money just cannot fight. Which brings us to part 2, the legend of the Rakhandar. So this entity driving Kuber to madness is known as the Rakhandar. And the Rakhandar isn't just your standard ghost or monster. We can define this deity neutrally as a powerful, invisible forest guardian. But crucially, the Rakhandar is a boundary setter. According to the ancient lore, every major forest is overseen by an unseen force that watches every single step you take and every axe swing you make. If you enter the woods with respect, the forest parts for you. But if you enter with evil intentions or greed, the Rakhandar becomes a ruthless punisher. And you know, this isn't just an isolated concept. Across different regions, this entity goes by a lot of different names. Some folks call it Van Devta, the forest god. Others say Van Mata, the forest mother. It's known as Gram Rakshak, the village protector, or even the earth goddess. The name changes depending on the geography and the local tribes, but the core function remains exactly the same. Fiercely protecting the forest from those who seek to exploit it. So why is it coming after this specific billionaire? Let's move to part 3, provoking the forest deity. It all boils down to one number, 100. This represents 100 acres of rare ancient forest land. This specific stretch of woods was incredibly rich in mineral resources, and it was inhabited by deeply rooted indigenous tribes who had lived there for literally centuries. For Kuber, those 100 acres represented an untapped gold mine, triggering an insatiable capitalist greed that completely blinded him to anything else. But Kuber didn't just walk in and claim it. The legend actually outlines his escalating sins against these indigenous people. First, he tried to buy them out, offering bribes that they flatly refused, prioritizing their sacred land over paper money. Enraged, Kuber turned to cruelty. Step 2, he secretly poisoned their livestock. Step 3, his men set small targeted forest fires to scare the tribes into thinking their gods were angry, but they still refused to leave. Finally, Kuber committed his ultimate act of arrogance. He stole the tribe's sacred physical idol of the Rakhandar and threw it into the water to drown it, believing he was destroying a silly superstition. And that final act? That sealed his fate. And this brilliantly illustrates our next section, Part 4, the final judgment. Back in the hospital, the horrifying karmic consequences finally arrive. Cooper is lying in his bed when suddenly all the lights in the hospital violently cut out. The rhythmic beeping of his medical monitors just flatlines into dead silence. Cooper is paralyzed in his bed. He tries to scream, but his tongue feels like heavy stone. And then, invading the sterile clinical environment of the ward comes this chilling sensory detail. The thick, overwhelming smell of rotting leaves, damp earth, and deep forest decay just fills the room. The surreal transformation described in the lore is absolutely terrifying. The stark white walls of the psychiatric ward literally begin to crack open, peeling back to reveal thick, ancient tree bark underneath. The hospital room is no longer a room. It's transforming into a dark, suffocating forest. Then, with a massive tremor, the concrete floor of the hospital splits right down the middle. From that deep chasm in the floor, a figure emerges. It's the old man from his visions, but he is no longer human. This is the monstrous, physical manifestation of the Rakhandar. His chest is made of impenetrable, solid bark. His arms and hands are twisted, knotty, thick roots, and his eyes are glowing with centuries of profound ancestral rage, the collective anger of the forest and the tormented tribal children he protects. Cooper is weeping now, completely broken. In a pathetic final attempt to save himself, he cries out to the deity, begging and offering to give all the money and all the land back. But the Rakhandar's voice echoes with deep, resonant dread, delivering an absolute mic-drop declaration: the forest does not take alms. The judgment is final. The source material narrates a gruesome conclusion, where the forest aggressively reclaims Cooper. Hundreds of thick, jagged roots shoot upward from the cracked hospital floor. They violently wrap around his legs, bind his chest, and slither into his mouth, choking off his screams. The roots pull him downward, dragging his paralyzed, bleeding body deep into the earth, swallowing him whole. When the doctors and Cooper's family enter the room the very next morning, the room is perfectly intact. The walls are white, the floor is solid. But Cooper Singhania is gone. The eerie official medical report simply lists his case as a mysterious disappearance. But the chilling reality left behind for us is what sits right where Cooper's bed used to be. Pushing up through the sterile hospital floor is a single, small, green plant. Let's move forward and see how this builds into the story's tragic epilogue. Fast forward 1 year. Cooper's family finally assumes he's dead. But Cooper's son, Robin, having learned absolutely nothing from his father's disappearance, arrogantly attempts to send his men to take that exact same 100-acre forest again. The very next morning, Robin's body is found torn to pieces deep in the woods. The official story blames wild animals, but the locals know the truth. The forest's warning is eternal and utterly unforgiving to the arrogant. So what does this all mean for us? This entire legend isn't just a spooky story. It's a powerful cultural metaphor about respect, boundaries, and the severe consequences of ecological greed. It leaves us with a profound, lingering question about our own relationship with nature and the unseen forces around us. The next time you step off the pavement and into the quiet of the trees, what watches you when you walk into the woods? Thank you for exploring this fascinating explainer with me today.